When it comes to protecting your home against potential storm damage, building inspectors are your last line of defense. They make sure contractors and roofers construct your home according to building codes. Some roofers complain many inspectors don't climb on roofs to check the work. They claim it is a problem of epidemic proportion. So what are the consequences when an inspector cuts corners? Senior investigative reporter Steve Andrews found out in Largo it doesn't appear to be a big deal.
Do you have a problem with that?
Sir, could you get your ladder and go to the second-story roof and observe the nails?
Get your ladder.
This is what can happen when a city inspector doesn't do his job. Largo City Inspector Glenn Hall arrived at Elizabeth Boozer's townhome September 26 to perform a final roof inspection. The Tall Pines Estates Homeowners Association hired Aces Roofing of St. Petersburg to put a new roof on its two buildings. Boozer's home security system recorded Inspector Hall's visit.
I literally spent 8 minutes here.
The video shows Hall spent only 3 minutes in the side yard. It also shows
He never once got on my roof to inspect the roof.
Did not get on the roof. Strange, since 3 weeks earlier, an inspector wrote he couldn't perform a final inspection because there was no access to the roof. Aces left the ladder, that's the access, and Hall doesn't climb it. Instead, he goes back to his vehicle and signs off on the final inspection. How do you inspect the roof from the sidewalk?
You do not inspect a roof from a sidewalk. Our procedure would require that the inspector go on the roof and perform that inspection.
Community Development Department Director Carol Strickland doubts this is a widespread problem in Largo.
We expect them to do their job, and we hold them accountable when we find that that has not occurred.
What have you done to hold him accountable in this situation?
We're very disappointed in what happened, and when we learned of it, we did sit down with that individual and counsel him.
No letter in the personnel file, no reprimand, just a good talking to.
Can't make an inspection from the ground.
Mark Zainal with the Florida Roofing, Sheet Metal, and Air Conditioning Contractors Association says so-called sidewalk inspections have been an ongoing problem for years. In a state like Florida, where Hurricane Andrew taught building officials valuable lessons about roofing, Zainal says it's up to inspectors to make sure contractors do the job properly.
That's what the inspectors are there for, the health, safety, and welfare of the public. So if there's an inspection required, that inspection really needs to be done. That's what the service is being paid for.
Through the first week of November, Largo's Building Division issued 665 roof permits. The city's website says obtaining a permit ensures the Building Division will inspect the work. Why pay for a permit if you're not going to get an inspection?
Well, those are very good questions, and you know, we certainly don't. We certainly want all of our employees. We train them well to follow proper procedure, and so when they don't, we correct it and take care of it.
When the city learned of the bogus inspection, it dispatched its chief inspector to look over the job. By that time, Boozer's boyfriend Chris Pitts videotaped exposed nails on the roof, as well as large gaps between nails in the shingles.
My shoe is 12 inches, by the way, so that's probably 15 inches or more.
Roofer Mark Gelling agreed to take a look.
I picked up probably 7 or 8 shingles were improperly nailed. So they were not properly spaced as far as the spacing, which is 8 inch on center.
Gelling suggested the manufacturer come out to inspect the roof. Ace's owner Chris Stenders later met with us. Tempers flared.
You asked me to show you the
And you haven't showed me. That's the problem. I'm here. I'm here. You're not. You're down there.
You didn't.
You are being the coward and making accusations that are not true. I am proving you wrong.
If you want me to go up there and look with you,
Yeah,
I'll be happy to do that.
Absolutely.
Is that what you want?
Sure.
Let's go. So we climbed to the top roof, where we did find a few exposed nails. The code calls for 6 nails per shingle. They should be approximately 7 inches apart.
Because here's where the shingle starts.
Yep.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. The nail spacing's proper.
Not so fast. The manufacturer told me if there's a gap of 10 inches or more between nails, there should be a nail put in the middle. In each shingle we observed, there was a gap of between 12 to 16 inches. Stender says his nail spacing is fine. A closer look at this job reveals Aces failed to install required felt or tar paper under the shingles on 2 roof overhangs.
I don't know what happened with that situation, but that will be fixed.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. That's a code violation, something a Largo City inspector should have caught, but you can't do that from the ground. Now, Pinellas County Justice and Consumer Services reports no complaints against Aces Roofing. The company has an A- rating with the Better Business Bureau. According to the city of Largo, its chief inspector reportedly okayed the roof, but there's no report, no notes, nothing to show he was out there or what he saw. And Inspector Hall's evaluations show he meets or exceeds standards. It'll be interesting to see if there's any mention of this in his next evaluation, seeing that the city of Largo is so meticulous the way it details things here.
Is that roof okay?
I don't know. I mean, the person Elizabeth Boozer trusted and paid to make sure it's okay didn't go up on the roof to check it out. If that security camera wasn't rolling, no one would have been the wiser. Roofers say this is a huge problem throughout this area. Largo has no real proof its inspectors are doing their job. It's just hoping they are.
Accountability is an important thing here.
Boy, you'd hate to find out that they didn't do their job when a hurricane rolled through the Bay Area.
That'd be the hard way to learn that lesson,
Absolutely.
wouldn't it? All right, Steve, thank you. They found nothing wrong. Largo building inspectors in September signed off on a new roof. They said it met the Florida Building Code. But as senior investigative reporter Steve Andrews found out sections of the roof did not meet code, and those inspectors just plain missed them.
We did two, not just one, but two follow-up inspections to make sure that if there were any questions, that we'd taken a good look at that roof and were satisfied that that roof meets the minimum standards of the Florida Building Code.
Really? So why then, after Largo building inspectors signed off on this roof's final inspection, is the roofer, Aces Roofing, ripping up shingles?
And is that to code?
No, it's not.
This roof was not put on according to code. Despite multiple inspections, Largo building inspectors missed a couple of things, like this.
This little roof has no felt on it, okay? And I just went on the main roof this morning. Yes, sir, I have video. I went on the main roof this morning out back, and there's at least 5.
I will tear it off right now.
No felt paper beneath the shingles on 2 roof overhangs. That's a missed code violation.
The issue, it needs felt paper. And why it doesn't have felt paper is beyond me.
And another Largo miss?
Just on my roof, there's 5 exposed nails.
Questions about what sort of job Largo did inspecting this roof popped up September 26th. That's when Inspector Glenn Hall showed up for a final roof inspection. Elizabeth Boozer's home security system captured Hall arriving. He stood in her yard for 3 minutes. Hall did not climb a ladder left for him. He did, however, sign off on the final inspection without even taking a look.
He never once got on my roof to inspect the roof.
The city claims Hall violated procedures by not climbing the ladder to do a final inspection. His discipline?
We did sit down with that individual and counsel him.
It then sent Chief Inspector Jack McCabe to look things over. McCabe gave the job a thumbs up.
We, as I mentioned, performed multiple inspections and found that it did meet the requirements of the Florida Building Code.
But even Aces roofer Chris Stenders realized the work on the overhang was flawed once it was pointed out. What are you going to do about that?
Tear it off and redo it.
Stenders climbed to the roof with me, and together we found a few exposed nails the Largo inspectors also overlooked. Aces did the repair, though it didn't pull a permit before doing the repair work. The city brought down the hammer and fined them $26. It sent Jack McCabe out to do another inspection. What did he have to say? When he saw us pull up, McCabe couldn't get out of there fast enough. Now, Inspector McCabe signed off on that final inspection of this most recent repair work, indicating, again, he found nothing wrong. Question here is, if Largo inspectors were supposedly on that roof at least a half dozen times and missed some obvious problems, well, what else have they missed in that city?
So all of these questions because one inspector just didn't follow the rules.
Yeah, you know, and the only reason we know he didn't follow the rules is because it was caught on camera. Right. Now, when a city inspector is caught violating procedure, it not only raises questions about him and his work, but his bosses, who also said that roof was okay, when later we found out they all missed or overlooked code violations.
All right, Steve, thank you.
Serious stuff.
Sure. And more to come. I gotta believe you're gonna continue to follow these up.
Yep.
Thanks.
The city of Largo's top building official has left the building. Ken Andrews' departure comes shortly after an 8 on Your Side investigation revealed a city inspector signed off on a roof without climbing a ladder to check the work. The city's top brass was not told. Tonight, senior investigative reporter Steve Andrews, no relation, tells us there is more they don't know.
This may have been the final nail in the coffin for Largo building official Ken Andrews. Home surveillance video cameras captured building inspector Glenn Hall showing up to do a final inspection on Elizabeth Boozer's roof. The video shows Hall stayed in Boozer's yard 3 minutes, signed off on the final inspection, and left. Largo Community Development Director Carol Strickland. How do you inspect the roof from the sidewalk?
You do not inspect a roof from a sidewalk. Our procedure would require that the inspector go on the roof and perform that inspection.
Well, Hall violated city procedure. His bosses, which included Ken Andrews, discovered the bogus inspection in September when Boozer complained to the city. The city disciplined Hall in early October by giving him a good talking to or counseling him. Turns out Carol Strickland didn't know about any of this until mid-November when 8 on Your Side started asking questions. But she never let on. I saw no letter in his file, no disciplinary action.
The city has a progressive disciplinary policy. It begins with counseling, and then if the problem's not corrected, it's followed up with more formal disciplinary measures.
Strickland assures bogus inspections are not widespread in Largo.
Our inspectors are highly trained and licensed by the state of Florida in their profession.
Inspectors look to make sure code requirements are met to protect against wind.
And also that the product's installed per the manufacturer's specifications.
The manufacturer specifications for these shingles say nails must not be exposed, visible on the finished roof. Well, look what these highly trained inspectors who are licensed by the state of Florida in their profession missed. Nails clearly visible on the finished roof. Yet according to what everyone told Strickland, everything was A-OK.
We, as I mentioned, performed multiple inspections and found that it did meet the requirements of the Florida Building Code.
Well, it didn't. Now, in addition to keeping his boss in the dark about the bogus roof inspection, Ken Andrews was also suspended for 5 days in November for approving time cards with incorrect entries, including one for a temporary worker who was injured off the job, was unable to return, yet received 80 hours of pay for time she didn't put in. The city says it is seeking a new direction, new leadership for the building division.
Well, you know, if you talk about these shiners and these missed nails and the fact that this roof was checked multiple times, you have to wonder if there are more changes that could take place in this building.
Yeah, you do. Carol Strickland told me that her inspectors assured her that that roof met code. Now, the specs said no exposed nails. I showed them to you. Saw them when I was up there. That's the key, going up there. One expert told me inspections from sidewalks or even ride-bys from cars are a problem of epidemic proportion here in Florida.
Kind of rattling the cage of the building division tonight again.
Well, you know, when it needs to be rattled.
All right, that's why we're here. All right, thank you, Steve.
Let's do it.